Hello, everyone. Today we're going to dive into some of the most powerful and, let's be honest, kinda scary forces on our planet. We'll be looking at the science behind some of Earth's most dramatic and incredible events.
So, let's kick things off with a really big question, one that people have been asking for centuries. What happens when the very ground beneath our feet, our own planet, becomes the biggest danger we face?
Well, the term for this, as you probably know, is a natural disaster. And the definition is pretty straightforward, right? They're basically huge accidents caused by nature, and, this is the crucial part, we have absolutely no control over them.
So in this explainer, we're going to look at four major types. We'll be talking about earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, and drought. All of these have had a huge impact around the world, and especially right here in India.
All right, first up, earthquakes. Let's talk about what happens when the very ground we stand on starts to shake.
So what exactly is an earthquake? Well, it's a sudden shaking of the ground, but it's not random at all. It's caused by massive movements happening deep, deep inside the Earth. Think of it like giant puzzle pieces, the tectonic plates grinding against each other and suddenly releasing a huge amount of energy.
Okay, so if this is happening so deep inside the Earth, how on earth do we measure it? We use this really cool instrument called a seismograph. Its whole job is to detect and record those vibrations.
And how it works is actually pretty genius. You've got this heavy stone hanging from a spring with a pen attached to it. Underneath, there's a rotating drum with paper. Now, when the earth trembles, the whole frame shakes. But because of inertia, that heavy stone wants to stay put. So the pen attached to it draws squiggly lines on the moving paper, creating what we call a seismogram. That's the earthquake signature.
But look, this isn't just about science and instruments. These events have a very real and sometimes tragic human cost. Many of you will have heard of the terrible earthquake in Gujarat back in 2001. On January 26th, a massive quake hit, and sadly, more than 20,000 people lost their lives. It's a powerful reminder of just how devastating these can be.
Okay, let's move on from shaking ground to, well, fire coming from deep inside the Earth. Let's talk about volcanoes.
First things first, let's clear up something people always get mixed up: magma versus lava. It's actually super simple. When that molten rock is beneath the Earth's surface, we call it magma. The second it reaches the surface, say through a volcano, we call it lava. That's it. Location is everything.
Now, volcanoes come in three main types. The first one is what we call an active volcano. These guys can erupt at pretty much any time. They're the ones we have to keep a very close eye on.
Then you have dormant volcanoes. You can think of these as sleeping volcanoes. They haven't erupted in a really long time, but, and this is a big but, they could wake up and erupt again in the future.
And finally, we have extinct volcanoes. As the name suggests, scientists are pretty sure these are done for good. They haven't erupted in ages and probably never will again. They're like ancient monuments to the Earth's fiery past.
So we've talked about earthquakes shaking the land. But what happens when that same incredible power is unleashed under the ocean? Well, you get one of the most terrifying phenomena on water: the tsunami.
The word tsunami actually comes from Japanese, and it means harbor wave. And that name tells you a lot, doesn't it? These aren't your normal beach waves. We're talking about massive, sudden walls of water, usually caused by undersea earthquakes that are powerful enough to destroy entire coastal towns.
And again, this is something that has affected our region profoundly. I'm sure many of you have heard about the Indian Ocean tsunami that happened in December 2004. It was just a heartbreaking, massive event.
The scale of it was just unbelievable. Thousands of lives were lost across India, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia. And the damage to property? It was worth crores and crores of rupees. It's the kind of destruction that takes generations to recover from.
Okay, so we've talked about these sudden, violent events. But now, let's shift gears to a different kind of disaster. One that's slow, creeping, and a huge challenge for many parts of India: drought.
So, what is a drought? Simply put, it's when there's no rain for a very, very long time. And this causes a chain reaction, right? It leads to a scarcity of water, which means a scarcity of food for us and fodder for animals. It's a quiet disaster, but incredibly serious.
And if you look at our history, this is not a new problem for India at all. We've had major droughts throughout the 20th century: 1905, 1918, 1965, and even as recently as 2000. Each one has been a massive challenge.
So, after hearing about all of this, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, drought,
You might be thinking, wow, this is all so destructive. Why do we even bother studying them if we can't control them? It's a fair question.
Well, there's some really important reasons. For one, there's a scientific interest, right? It helps us understand our own planet better. Then there's a cultural interest, learning how these events have shaped our history and our lives. And maybe most importantly, there's a technological interest. By understanding these things, we can invent and create things to keep us safe, like early warning systems.
And that last point is the big one. Take tsunamis, for example. Because we've studied them so much, we can now build sensor systems that give people an early warning. That advance notice, even if it's just minutes, can be the difference between life and death. That's knowledge being turned into real life-saving action.
So that brings us to the end. We now know the what and the why of these disasters better than at any other time in history. So the biggest question I want to leave with you is this: what can we do next? How are we going to use all this knowledge to build a safer world tomorrow?